I went through this program, men's self-leadership type thing called the New Warrior Training Adventure. It's like a healthy initiation for men. And it was in Chicago, and I was, it was 2012. And we did this Carl Jung's shadow work. And so this shadow work is a way where you look at the things that you hide, repress, and deny about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And through that body of work in like really strategically facilitated processes and bioenergetic work, like, getting anger and rage and sadness out of your tissues through processes, I was able to see a side of myself, a version of myself that I never realized that I had inside of me. And from that moment moving forward, I kind of like stepped into my manhood, and I'm like, you know what? Like, thank you, Dad. Like, I love you. And I'm like, I'm going to take everything I learned from you, but I'm going to add to it. And I'm going to take total responsibility for, raising my kids and my family and being the hero of my own family. Mm-hmm. in a way that I think is meaningful and impactful. Because I missed so much time with my dad because he was always working. And I think a lot of that had to do with him trying to please his father. And I don't know, it'd be a good conversation for us to have, but I felt like that's the transfer. That was the transfer. It was like my dad's dad. My dad was seeking love and validation from his dad by working and doing things.
Yeah.
It was never like just being with each other or, Like, I remember we went to like Disney World with the grandparents like one time, and it was like the one trip, but I was so young I hardly remembered it.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to create more of those experiences with my family and bring, and one of the reasons I'm really attracted to being wealthy and completely financial abundance is because I want to be able to like give my parents a quality of life that they don't even know is possible.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that, and be able to give back to your parents in a way that's like what they did set you up to be where you are, whether, all the good and all the bad combined, like sets you up to be where you are. And it's the least we could do for our parents in the process. Right. So, have you had any of these types of conversations with your dad? You mentioned like, it'd be good to kind of understand why your dad did what he did. Was it for his dad, but how about the feelings that you've had about what it was like for you growing up? Have you opened up with him at all about any of that?
Yes. Yeah. We've had these conversations, and, there's amazing things that happen when you approach a difficult conversation. Like, at first I was scared to have it. It took like years. I waited, and then I waited, and then I just realized, like, what's at risk for me telling my dad how I feel now? Like, I'm a man. If he stops talking to me because I, acknowledge something that hurt me in the past, like, it's not me to shame. It's not like a shame thing. It's like, hey, I've had this self-realization that I'm wounded, and I just wanted to thank you for everything you did. And I'm just letting you know, like, it hurt me, and I love you, and I want to feel loved by you in a different way. And that's it. Yeah. It's like, no, there's no, like, he doesn't owe me anything. Like, it's not like I'm expecting him to change or see anything different in me. I'm just like, hey, this is my experience.
Yeah, for me, like, watching my dad, like, the way he acts now is so different than when I was a kid. Like, so different. Like, I get way more hugs now. Like, every time I go to their house, like, I get a big hug when I get there. I get a big hug when I leave. Growing up, it was one of those that my dad was working all the time. And oftentimes he worked nights. So he'd be sleeping when I was awake, and working when I was asleep. And it was like, all right, well, if he was even there, at the time, because he may have been elsewhere doing something. So now I get to see such a different side of my dad and who he is and what it's like for him. But, to your point, me learning a lot more about my dad and what it was like for him growing up helped me learn an unbelievable amount about who he is and what tools he came to the table with, and what tools he was really missing, that just there was no way for him to learn, some of the things that I wish he would have been able to do for me, because he didn't have that opportunity for him growing up. Nobody even told him that was a tool he should have in his toolbox. He didn't know that was an option. Hugs and kisses were not a thing he ever experienced, I'll tell you that. So But no, I'm glad that you had those conversations, and I encourage anybody listening to have those conversations with your dad. And if you're an older dad and you have sons who are adults, then have those conversations with your sons. Let them know kind of who you are, and be a little bit more open with the fact that of where you came from. So because you mentioned something, Brett, a little bit ago about the hurt that you received, right? And it was almost just in a passing way, but we all have received some sort of hurt growing up, and we're all going to provide some sort of hurt to our kids. And it's a matter of trying to establish what it was, and how we can fix our own previous hurt, and how we can fix the current hurt that we're providing, we're giving to our kids without realizing it. Sometimes it's a conversation like this where we realize it comes out and be like, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that to my son or my daughter or whatever. And sometimes it's that conversation with our dads. But so as you mentioned that you wanted to take responsibility for your own family, right? And realizing after that experience, and I think you said it was 2012, like, okay, well, when I have my kids, I want to take charge of what I think that looks like. So what does that look like for you now, right? You've got one kid and one on the way. What does it look like for you now as far as what that means to lead your family the way that you want to? I warned you before we started that one of the kids would probably show up, and here we are. But what does that mean to you right now?
What it means to me right now is spending as much time with my kids, quality time with my kids that I'm able to, and then to create experiences. There's a story in a book that Jim Shields wrote that's really powerful, and it creates this perspective, and it's called 18 Summers, and it's like, you literally get, and he also has the family boardroom. So it's like, treat your family like a business, like work on it. Like if it's not going well, fix it. Like, are you going to let it bankrupt? And I think one of the biggest issues that we're facing specifically in America is the broken family. And one of the many beautiful reasons that I've decided to become Catholic was that there's a kind of a non-negotiable clause about being divorced, right?
Yeah.
And so that works well for someone like me that has curiosity about, like, well, what if, what if we could? And so there is no what ifs, right? It is what it is. And so me being able to provide for my family in a way where I'm able to actually be like the nucleus of the family versus I'm like my wife, who does an unbelievably extraordinary job of being the mom and nurturing and loving, and just like I tell her almost daily, like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like so impressed. And so that's a good testament, because like that's why I married my wife, because I knew that she would make remarkable partner to grow into life with, to grow through whatever we go through in life. Yeah. And then to become better humans in the process. Like I'm never going to be too smart or too wise to like continue growing and learning for my kids even, right? And I think, whether we're an adult or a kid, we all have a shared human experience that's non-negotiable. Yeah. And we have basic human needs that need to get met. And when those human needs get derailed, people get hurt. Yeah. And that's when the anger and the sadness and all that stuff comes up. And it's like, how to teach your amazing kids how to deal with that stuff so that they can use it as power, right? Use it like, oh, I feel this anger or sadness coming up. How can I turn this anger or sadness, which is actually just energy that's trapped inside you, how can I transform this into something powerful and shift it into the right lane so that I can actually respond versus react to the situation at hand?
Yeah, the respond versus react is something I've talked about multiple times on here, and I absolutely love that you brought that up, because it will completely demolish the feeling of a child, where they're at, what they think about themselves, what they think about the experience they just had, if we react versus respond. And that, man, oh man. my kid just stole my little back massager thing, little massage gun, and he's using it on his little sister, and she's loving it. She's it's vibrating like crazy, but there she goes.
I can't even hear it.
Oh my goodness, it's hilarious. But I mean the ability to truly respond versus react takes so much practice. Like, how have you Obviously, your oldest is 2.5 years old, but you seem to have put a lot of work into this before you even started having kids. So, how do you look at responding versus reacting, and how are you trying to apply that even now with a 2.5-year-old?
Yeah, so I think women are better than men. I think men have a blow off valve, and once something goes off and it's not like how they expect it to be, it doesn't go well. And so the first thing that I've trained myself to do is to just take like 1 to 3 conscious breaths before I actually make say anything or do anything. Even if it's like, I need to do something fast. It's like the whole Navy SEALs saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And so making sure it happens in a good way, in a clean way. So, we're going to wound our kids, right? It's going to happen. And it's almost necessary for the evolution and progression of life, but we can cut them cleanly and we can teach them along the way. And I also have been really honest about owning my own, I apologize to my kid,
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, I'm sorry, buddy, that I reacted the way I did. I love you so much. You're my best friend, And so I'm already creating this relationship, and whether he understands or not doesn't matter, because it's the pure energy and embodiment of truth that he feels from me more than any words that I say.